Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Not Quite Old, Not Quite Young. I am Renee Manning, and I am coming to you live from my kitchen. So, welcome back. The last couple weeks, I've been talking a lot about anger and disappointment, really fun topics. And so this week, I thought I'd just throw in grief. No, I'm kidding. This week, I'm talking about stress and the opportunity that we have, I think, as moms in midlife to talk to our teens and help support them and empower them to create really healthy processes and languages around stress management is super important. And so I was thinking about this because of the anger and disappointment stuff that was going on in my life stemmed from an issue with my daughter, right? One of my daughters. And of course, as a mom, one of my first instincts was to try to fix it, right? And make it go away because I hated that she was suffering and struggling. And I hated this injustice that was happening to her. So part of me wanted it to go away. And I know that stress is part of life. And that as a parent, what I want to do is help my children specifically, but I think is an admirable goal for all children to grow up knowing that stress is part of life, knowing that hardships happen, and also knowing how to deal with them in healthy, positive ways. So what I decided on this whole topic is that, as a parent, what I'm going to really name is that I want to help my children, my daughters, find ways to deal with stress in a helpful way, and so that they actually manage through the stress or the sadness or the grief, the hardship, and not try to avoid it or push it down, but really just manage right through it. And I believe, and this is again kind of a midlife thing, that when we reach midlife, we realize that maybe we've been doing some stuff wrong, and now we have the option to course correct. So like I've been saying, repressing anger hasn't really served me that well recently, even though it probably served me in some way when I was younger. So how does that relate to the kids? The kids who are, in my case, not really kids, but still at times very much act like children, and who I think, if they're like me, will always probably come to me as a parent in a time of need. And I really love that. So I feel like, grounding the why is this important? It's important to me because I feel like in this life, we are not necessarily taught how to do this. It doesn't come up at school. It's not part of summer camp. It's not something that you learn on your job. So if we as moms aren't teaching it, who else will, right? I know they get a little bit in school now, which is awesome. But so I really feel like it's a priority of mine to have this stress management and self-care curriculum kind of start at home. So then what's the first step once you determine this why, or once, for me, I determine this why? Damn it, if I didn't have to look inside and first take a look at what I'm doing. How am I managing stress? What are my coping mechanisms? How do I show up in times of stress in front of my family? And I kind of think about this as like taking time to know your own stress style. We've talked a little bit about like fashion and style, and so let's talk about our stress style. And this isn't to pick at you, it's to create awareness, right? So are you, like me, somebody who's totally calm and then just goes boom and erupts when they feel stressed? what would we call that? An eruptive style? Are you an avoider? Do you, look for a million things to do to not address whatever it is that's making you stressed? Do you shut down? Do you check out? Um, are you like, what's the word? My notes, I say over functioning. Are you like, are you the hero? Are you doing extra for everyone else as a way to not deal with what's extra in your life? So those are just some common examples that I know of that can show up for women. And I really think it's worth taking time to understand and see where you are first as this beautiful human. And, just knowing that you don't have to be perfect, certainly, and that we have this neuroplasticity, right, in our brains, this word that's kind of popular right now, and we can change. It's not easy, but we can. So if the awareness leads us to something that we've decided we'd like to do differently, then we have that within us. So I'm going to read this quote. It's from Viktor Frankl, and it says, "Between stimulus and response, there is space. In that space is our power to choose our response." So we are not doomed. Our patterns do not doom us. We have the opportunity to choose our response. And it starts with our own awareness of how we are dealing with, and in turn, and this is where I get back to the kids, how are we modeling the stress management for our children? And, I think that's another really kind of interesting thing that can feel prickly. Like, what am I doing? Am I causing my kids the need to go to therapy? Of course, that's just life. But just recognizing that and trying to take the judgment out of it. And again, noticing, is this a pattern that maybe I want to change, or a pattern that I want to address? Without the self-awareness to first start with where you are in this cycle, it takes away that power. So always starting with you. After that, I think this idea of giving stress a language and giving it a name and talking about it and recognizing it, in a lot of ways takes away its power, because it takes away the mystery. So when something is hard for us or our children, we often don't want to hear, "Oh, you'll be fine. Just deal with it." I mean, certainly there's a time when we need a little tough love and where we need to give tough love. However, I think recognizing and naming our emotions and our experience help us get to the end point faster. So when there is stress, recognizing, hey, that's really stressful. It seems like you've got a lot on your plate. Saying that to a teenager really makes them feel seen. If you notice your teen is struggling physically due to stress, like you notice, do they have stomach aches? Like I did. Are they breaking out? Are they not eating as well? All of those things, just noticing it. And they might not be noticing it, but saying things like, "Your body seems overwhelmed right now. Let's slow down together. Let's talk about this," can help your teens understand that what they're going through is universal and it's not shameful, and there's no like magic cure for this. And that doing more is not going to make it go away, and it's not going to make it better. So I feel like this whole idea of naming the stress, using language around it that's positive and empowering, again, sets you and your teen up to walk through these difficult challenges in ways that are much healthier than some of the coping mechanisms that aren't quite as specific. And so, that kind of takes me to the next idea I have, which is, if we've got a family language around stress, if it's something that we just kind of acknowledge as part of our family culture, then acknowledging stress relief and stress management becomes much easier around the house. In my house, and a lot of this is because movement for me is my number one medicine. Um, I'm really, you can imagine, annoyingly, probably to my kids at times, interested in saying, hey, if you're feeling stressed, get out of your head and into your body. What do you need? And I felt very touched when one of my daughters said, Mom, I'm really great to run alone because it helps me clear my head. She's recognizing as a teenager that the running is a great place for her to work out whatever it is that's on her mind and in her heart. So, do you have movement resets, either individually or as a group? Is it playing pickleball? Is it going for a walk? Is it going for a bike ride? Do people know their own things? I do yoga. My husband plays soccer. Just recognizing and naming when you need a movement reset is really helpful. Then you've got your quiet resets, the times when it is just, you kind of got to go inward. For me, if you know me, you know that's journaling. For some, it could be meditation. For others, it could just be a quiet sit in the yard, but giving our bodies time to not be stimulated in an overstimulating world is an important piece to this equation. And always being on the go, always pounding the pavement is important to balance with some quiet time. And it's a skill, it's a learned skill. So as a family, acknowledging that both are important. And then there's this connection piece, and this is so central to our well-being, this idea of community. And for many of us, community starts with our family. And so identifying these community reset moments, maybe it's a hug, maybe it's a group hug, bring it in, group hug. Maybe it's sharing meals together. Maybe it's a weekly meal with extended family. Whatever that is, naming it and prioritizing it as a way that builds connection and community is incredibly helpful to helping everyone's stress levels go down and to knowing that there's support systems underneath the roof that will be with them and be there for them in times of need. So, Mama bears, we don't have to do this perfectly, and we're not going to. So just letting go of that idea that if we mess up, or if we name it wrong, or if something doesn't work out and we say the wrong thing and someone gets triggered, we've messed it up irrevocably. It's just not true. Give yourself grace. You are trying new skills. You are trying maybe to finesse skills that work for you. And now you're trying to give them to your children in the form of a gift. And maybe they're not going to be automatically well received. You don't know. But the idea to be visibly willing to learn and grow with your family is a really, really beautiful gift you can give to yourself and to them as it comes to modeling, right? Because you're showing them that you're willing to practice and you're willing to show up not as this infallible adult, but as this human person who loves and falls down and feels stress and laughs. You're doing that together. And so these shared moments of trial become, I think, as important as shared moments of joy. Because again, we need both. We need both. And to eliminate one would be to eliminate our humanity. So we need both. So just recognizing in closing that stress is going to show up in our children's lives. of any age, right? If they're 20-year-old children or they're 14-year-old children, or I have a feeling if they're 40-year-old children, the stress will show up. They will, on some level, I hope, come to me as their mom. And I think one of the greatest gifts I want them to have is the recognition that these challenges and these stresses are simply part of life, and that they have the tools to really navigate these hard moments, and that they know that me as their mama will be there by their side. So I would love to hear from you. What works for you? What are any of your family rituals or connection resets that you like to bring to the table? What are some things that have worked really well? What are some things that haven't worked well that you'd love to share with the group? So I look forward to all of that. And until next time, not quite old, not quite young, in community together.